folks. Welcome to the Seven Figure Network podcast. Again, my name is Melford Bibbins, and today I'm with Blair Critch. And Blair's got some really cool stories for you today because she has seen the ups and downs in this industry, both personally and professionally. So I'm so excited. We just spent a few minutes talking about her journey, and it's been an interesting one. It's going to kind of make you laugh, make you cry, the whole nine yards. But Blair, thanks so much for being on today. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for asking me. I love meeting new people and getting the opportunity to spread how amazing this industry can be if you do it the right way.
Love it. Thank you so much. So do me a favor. I want to hear your story, but I don't want to tell it. So what actually drove you into the industry in the first place?
Yeah, well, actually, probably like a lot of you listening, it was at the bottom of a pit, right? So for me, what happened was I used to be a kindergarten teacher. Then I had the opportunity to have two beautiful boys, and my husband gave me the opportunity to stay home because he was doing really well. So I took it. And during that 5 years that I was home, we started building here in South Florida a bunch of rental properties because my husband's business was wrapped up in the mortgage and real estate industry. And 2008 hit. And as a lot of you probably listening might have been part of that hit. It hit us hard, right? Yeah, you guys too. And it hit us hard. It was like the perfect storm. Not only did the stock market crash, we had a lot of money in that. Not only did my husband's business crash because it was wrapped up in the mortgage and real estate industry, but the third whammy was there were a couple of hurricanes back to back here in South Florida that increased insurance, and our renters couldn't pay rent, or their rent wasn't even making our mortgage payments anymore because of the insurance. And so we had to file bankruptcy. And so I had at the time a 6, or maybe I think is a little under a year, and a 3-year-old. And it was spring, and my husband looked at me and said, "I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you got to go back to work this fall." And as a teacher, you don't really have opportunities until the fall. So I found myself looking for a job in the fall. I was really dragging my feet. My heart was broken, not even about having to like rebuild our lives. Yeah, that sucked. That was really hard. But I was more sad that I was going to have to leave my kids, because I knew that as a kindergarten teacher, I was going to have to put them in morning care and aftercare. And I don't know, for some reason, after being home for 5 years, it just really was hard for me. And I've always been one to share things with people. Like, that's just my nature. But I tried and dabbled in like Discovery Toys and like Mona V and all these different things, right? And I never had success with them. So I really wasn't thinking about selling something. But then I happened to go to a jewelry party, and it was actually a horrible one. I hate to say that, but it was really bad. And I didn't buy anything because I didn't have any money at the time, but I just went to support a friend. And a couple of days later on Facebook, I saw this beautiful jewelry company, and I saw that it was also a party company. And I reached out to the girl, and she said, "There's nobody in South Florida doing it. You should do it. I'm a teacher just like you. Here's how I built it. You should go for it." My mom said, "I will pay the starter kit for you. You would be amazing." So I was like, you know what? I'll just have a party, right? Like what could happen? Like if I have a party and maybe I sell $1,000 and I get some free jewelry and it'll be fun. I need something fun right now. So I had a party, and 10 people booked shows with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so that summer, I started having these shows. And by the end of July, I was making more in a month than I ever did in a month of teaching. And my husband looked at me and said, "I want you to give this a try for a year." Now, mind you, I'm not an entrepreneur like you, or at the time I wasn't. Now I am. And my husband's like, "You should give," I'm thinking he's crazy. Like, I don't have any idea how to run a business. But he said, "You love people. You love to be around people. You love fashion. Like, just go for it. See what can happen in a year. Let's just give it a chance. We're at the bottom. So like, this is the best time to try out something." Right. So we did. And within 2 years with that company, I was making $99,000 a year. And I'm only sharing that because, you guys, I was a kindergarten teacher in South Florida. We get paid nothing down here. I was literally making my first year teaching $28,000. So you can imagine $99,000 in commissions. I was blown away, but I was doing like 10 to 12 shows a month. So I was away from my family a lot. And as my kids started to get older, I was getting very worn down. I was not feeling well. And that's kind of where 7 years ago, I kind of fell into the vitamin supplement world when somebody shared a product with me, fell in love with it. And I've always supported my friends in network marketing and direct sales. So I've tried a lot of vitamins, supplements, detox, you name it, right? And this one just happened to be something that I felt the difference on. I could stick with it. I loved their compensation plan. I loved their marketing plan. And it was like maybe the first 3 years the company had been around. And My husband got on the product as well and had great results. And we looked at each other and we were like, okay, my years of being in the jewelry business for 5 years were built for this moment, because this allows me an opportunity to help men and women and all kinds of people. And it also allowed me to be home. And I wasn't trading time for money anymore. I was literally getting a residual income, which I didn't even understand when I started, way back in 2009 or 2008. I didn't really know what residual even meant. I was just doing it because I happened to fall upon it. So I have been in both sides, I feel like, of network marketing and direct sales. And honestly, I am forever grateful for both. And now that I've been with my current company, I'll brag a little bit. I'll do a little bragging. But we, within the very first 3 weeks, we hit auto bonus with our current company. My husband hit it 2 months later. We hit the top of the compensation plan in 4 months. And we went on to be a 6-figure earner in 6 months. And in less than 3 years, we hit millionaire with the company. And we've been able to continue to grow. My favorite joy is that we have 465 people on my team right now that have hit auto bonus. And we have 4 people who've hit millionaire, and we have 8 people who've hit the top of the compensation plan. So for me, that was something that was lacking in my first company, was having other people have success. So that to me is bigger than any paycheck I'll ever get, is seeing other people have the same success, because it means it's working.
That is a recurring theme that I hear over and over again is once somebody goes through the treasury, figures it out, gets moving, and then, figures out that right path to skyrocket at the top, which takes a ton of work. Everybody thinks skyrocket means no work. It means twice as much work or 3 times as much work. But then you make that paradigm shift to care about who else can I bring to the top. I love that so much. And and you don't know this, but we lost everything in 2008 as well. Everything. Yeah. And we live in South Florida. Ironic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're in Sarasota.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's so cool. I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So we're like literally across the state.
Exactly. Yeah. We just draw a line across. So, hey, you talked about your husband building as well. Are you guys doing this together? Do you have 2 separate teams? How are you guys doing that?
I love that you asked that question. So that was another thing that pulled me to this company, was the fact that you could have 2 people in the same house that could be business builders, because in my jewelry business, you weren't allowed to do that. Yeah. So we are both our own, he's underneath me. He's my promoter. Yep. So he's underneath me. And he runs a real estate company. So he's really busy, especially right now. So, and even when we first started, he was in those first 5 years of his company. And so you know what that's like. When you are not joining a franchise or network marketing, it's not laid out for you. So it's a lot of work and a lot of bleeding money. Yep. And so when I started with this company, we really sat down together and we were like, okay, how can we build it? And he said, I can't be talking about vitamins and real estate at the same time to people, but I will pull people to you. And so he did that very casually. I mean, he hit auto bonus on his own. I did not build it for him. Now I do build more for him, but he really did it himself, only by being out and about. And when people asked him how he had so much energy or how he was feeling good, or questions, he'd be like, oh my gosh, you have to try this product out. Here's my wife's phone number. What's yours? I'll have her call you. And so it was a perfect 3-way validation call that I try to teach my team all the time. He just did it 24/7. And actually this morning I was at yoga with one of the girls on my team, and she said her husband's a captain. And she even said that, she said, my last 6 customers have been because my husband just simply said, you got to talk to my wife. What's your phone number? I'll have her text you. Yeah. So it's awesome.
That is one of the most powerful tools in this industry. My wife's got this cool thing. Here's her phone number. It's just so incredibly powerful. And that's why it drives me crazy when, people talk about the fact that, I don't have, spousal support. My spouse doesn't know what I do. Spend an hour, sit down, show them, because you will not believe the power of the term. You got to see what my wife's doing. You got to see, the reason I feel so good is because what my wife is selling. Go talk to her. Like the power, that's incredible. Excuse me. So I want to ask you.
So can I jump in really quick about the marriage?
Please.
My husband and I are really passionate about marriage, because we went through a lot of crap, right? We went through the bankruptcy. Then I actually found out my husband was addicted to oxycodone. We had to battle that. Thank goodness for network marketing, because I had money of my own that I was saving in case he didn't get healthy. Thank goodness he did. But when we started with this current company, I really messed up in the last one. It was like I was building it myself. I wasn't sharing information with him, with the jewelry company, because I didn't think he'd understand or care. I was just kind of like doing my own thing, right? And when I started with the vitamin company, we had a major sit down, the 2 of us. What do we want to do? How fast do you want me to go? What are you willing to sacrifice to help me get there? How can you help me in this journey? And now let's sit down with our 2 children and explain what mommy's going to do. And we decided I started in August of 2014. We wanted before that year ended that I would hit the top of the compensation plan. So that was a 4-month journey. And so during that time, we made like a chart with our kids and we said, okay, as we fill this in, when mommy gets to the top and we hit this, what do you guys want to do? How can we celebrate? Because I'm not going to be at every practice. I'm not going to be at every game. Mommy has to sacrifice some things to get there. And I want you to know why. And I want you to celebrate with me. And at the time they were little, they were like 8 and 10 or 6 and 8 or something like that. So they wanted to go to Universal and they wanted fast passes and they wanted the Universal Hotel and they wanted the Minion room. Like they got detailed. And you guys, what a gift you're teaching your kids for the rest of their life, right? Goals and how to go for it. So we made this chart and they would help me fill it in. And I tell you what, there is nothing that will push you harder than your kids on your butt 24/7. Mommy, did you fill in more? Mommy, are we going to go to Universal? Mommy, did you do it? Right? They were on me. And so when we hit that, it was a major celebration. It was so much fun, but I feel like it helped my marriage too.
Yeah. I thank you for saying that because I used to ask a question, how do you balance business and family? And I've had too many smart people tell me you can't. There is no balance. It just comes down to explaining to them that mommy is going to be away for a certain amount of time. It's only going to be for a certain amount of time. And this is the reward for what mommy's or daddy. I don't mean to be sexist, but and I hear that over and over again from people that are, master distributors, top of their company, even executives in the companies saying, you know what, there might not be life balance now, but I want you to understand why I'm doing this and what it's going to do for the whole family. And it just skews the scales and it builds kids right. It just makes kids
and you know what? After, I had cancer last year it's been about 1.5 years now, but one of the biggest things that I learned during that time, the biggest blessings was it's okay to take care of yourself, right? We always hear from the flight attendant, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on the kid. And like a lot of times we kind of ignore that, but the reality is there's nothing wrong with saying to your children or to your spouse, like, I want this, I want to go for this. Here's how I can go for this. But when you don't have those conversations, that's when it creates, that tension or the animosity. But like when I was going through chemo, I said to them, like, I'm not going to come to everything. I'm not going to be it as much as you're used to me being, not just because of chemo, but because I want to really take care of myself during this time. And so if it's during that time I'm supposed to be at yoga, I'm going to go to yoga over going to that because mommy's taking care of herself right now. So there's always going to be, I feel like in your life, if you're honest with your family, there's always going to be times where you're running and times when you have more time for them. And to me, that's what summer is. Like my kids know, like I don't take off of work, but I change my hours for work in the summer. Like they know mommy's working from 7 to 11 and then I'm like out having fun with them. So it's just talking priorities.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Hey, I want to ask you, because you made a transition that challenges a lot of folks. So going from jewelry to health products. A lot of folks are making transitions like that. Because let's be honest with each other, 75% of the network marketing industry is health products. So a lot of folks might get in with one thing, but then end up landing in a health product. What can you give a tip or two to the folks that are thinking about making that transition, or even more so, or in the middle of that transition, going from a thing, a widget, if you will, to a health-based product? Can you give a couple of tips, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest reason why people are transitioning is because the residual, don't you? Like, I think people are growing and learning and realizing that the world is going to be a different place. It already is. And that if you can make money while you sleep, that's the way to go. Right. So that's what I love about that over like a widget or an item or whatever. Yeah. And also purpose, right? Like I have learned as I've gotten older, like I want to have a purpose and a passion for something. And although I love style and fashion, and that is something I love, it doesn't bring me joy to sell it to other people. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not actually helping them. Actually, for some people, they shouldn't be spending the money. So I never feel guilty about somebody spending money on vitamins or oils or supplements because I know that it's good for them. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's been a shift. But I think that the number one thing that stops people from making that shift is there is some weird thing in our brains that makes us think it's no big deal to sell a cute shirt or a cute handbag or cute makeup or cute jewelry to somebody, but it feels weird and awkward to sell something that they're buying every single month that maybe they could pick up at the grocery store, right? So I think it's just, honestly, it's a mindset. So for me, that's what was going on for me. When I first fell in love with the product, my husband fell in love with the product. We looked into the compensation plan. He's like, we should do this. And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, let's make a pros and cons list. All the cons were about me. What would people think? Well, they think I'm just trying to sell them something. I'm selling another product. I don't look like the perfect size 0 fitness queen. Am I going to be able to sell a health and wellness product? What if it doesn't work for other people? Like all of those things. And then in the other column, the pro column was about other people. Like I could really help people. I could really help moms and dads to have more energy. I could help people to sleep better at night. I could help people to reduce their discomfort. And my husband looked at it and he goes, so the cons are all about you and the pros are all about others. How do you want to live your life? And that for me was an aha moment of like, you're right. I cannot let fear, because that's the truth, right? It's really fear, stop me from doing what I know I'm supposed to do, which is help others to live a life that they deserve. And so for me, it was a shift of being scared and being afraid. And I also highly recommend you find a product that you're passionate about. And there's tons of amazing ones out there. And if you're even trying to get into this industry for the first time and you're finding yourself stopping yourself, it's just fear. Those people aren't paying your paycheck. Okay. Those people that you're afraid are going to make fun of you or not want to be around you anymore, sounds like you're growing past them. And that's okay. It's time to move on because you are put on this earth to do something big. You just got to figure out what that is.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So you told me about the paradigm shift it took for you to see success. Now let's talk about the 8 people that you've helped reach, the top of the company or millionaire. I can't remember which one it was, but I know it was an awesome rank. So how did you help your folks build over these last couple of wacky years?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, they did it themselves. I can't take any credit, but we have an amazing team. And one of the things when I first started with this company and I got to make that shift, because what a really cool blessing for me was I started with the jewelry company. I was with them for almost 5 years. Then I got to start over and I had to completely start over. Like I know sometimes people can take teams with them and do things like that. As soon as I told the jewelry company that I was leaving, their CEO and legal team was on me and I wasn't educated then, so I didn't really understand what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. So when they told me I couldn't talk to any of my customers or stylists, I believed them. I was scared to death because a lawyer told me, right? Yeah, and I was young. Now I'd be like, excuse me, my people are my people, but I didn't understand that back then. And so I literally quit and did not take one person with me. So I literally started over completely. And when I started over, I decided, what do I want? How do I want my team to be? What do I want to see happen? And so it was a total gift, but I happened to hear Eric Worre that week that I started. I was listening to some of his stuff and I heard him say, figure out what the machine is for like the sweet spot of your company. So figure out what is that rank that is the sweet spot that allows people to, number one, feel successful. Number 2, want to stay there forever or move on, right? And number 3, that you can literally duplicate. So what I did was I looked and I saw the second spot of our compensation plan is the auto bonus. Once you hit auto bonus, that is the second highest payment in people's houses. So of course they're going to want to stay there. Second thing was we have 3 trips a year you can earn. And the first way to earn it is by being at that level. So you want to be at that level so you can go on these trips. So I learned how to duplicate as many auto bonus earners as possible. And I taught every single leader that came in with me how to do the exact same thing. And we really kept it so simple. And then we unified. So what I mean by that is I did not do well with that when I was a stylist because it was kind of like one for all, right? Like if you're going to talk to that girl and I also know that girl, I want that show from her. And it was also because the compensation plan wasn't as good. Now I realized if I help my team, that helps me. So we really would do like weekly, now we do Zooms, right? Because things have changed and people weren't going out. Thank goodness we're getting back around there. But we were doing, when we had to pivot over these last 3 years, we've been doing weekly Zooms where people can come and they can join and hear about the opportunity, weekly Zooms about the product. Just staying very duplicatable. The corporate team has 2 calls a week that are just about stories about how the product helps people. So we push people into that. We all as leaders have a Facebook group for our team. Instead of letting people do their own Facebook groups, I've allowed them to step up as leadership and help host the overall team Facebook group. So we're all unified. And then I host 2 retreats a year. One that people can earn on my team, even though our company has 3 fun trips a year, they're not like teaching, they're just fun. So I host one where people can pay and come and just be with me. And we do lots of fun things together, but lots of learning. And then a second one that people can earn every year. And those, we work a lot on mindset at those, because I feel like that's something that, you know, doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. So I don't know. Did that really answer your question? I feel like I kind of got off track. Sorry.
No. You're talking about the ways that you helping your team grow, and that's the perfect part. So now let's talk about the flip side of the coin, because we talked about auto ships earlier. How about retention? Because obviously we know, it's like anybody can hit a rank. Holding on to it's the important part. So what are some of the tips you can give folks about the retention model you've used for your team?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've actually never been asked that question before. So as I'm thinking about it, I would say like the biggest thing for me is teaching everybody to not get into management mode.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that is the number one thing that happens. And listen, it's happened to me. So like, I'm just being straight up honest, but one of the things that we try to talk about all the time is looking at your calendar for the week. And I'm really big on calendar planning, and I teach time blocking and calendar planning with my team, and I color code my calendar. So if I look at my calendar right now, I can see that this week, if I'm being honest, I have way more of the color for my team and team things than I do for my own personal business. And that's not okay. It should be 70% personal business, 30% team. And I think a lot of times that's switched for people, or they even think I'm going to do 50-50. No, you have to be constantly growing, because growing your customer base then allows you to have happy customers that then become promoters, right? So, or business builders, or whatever you call them. And so I really talk about that a lot with my team. And then we talk a lot about good customer service, because tell you what, I mean, I feel like that's gone out the window, right? And people a lot of times aren't doing good customer service because they're scared to reach out, especially with auto ship companies. It's like, oh no, if I reach out, she might say she doesn't want to continue on. So really what you're saying is I want to trick her into forgetting she has an auto ship because I'm scared to reach out. But instead I teach them like wording and things to do every single month in order to reach out to those people, to encourage them. And actually you can end up making higher commissions when you give good customer service, because then they want to know about your other products and more things. So that's probably the biggest things that we do to continue to keep our ranks and continue to grow.
Thank you so much for mentioning management mode. It's, we talk about this over and over and over again. And the one thing that most folks tend to forget is that when you're in management mode, everybody on your team becomes a must-have. And I mean, we want to put value in every person. We want everybody to feel like they belong, but you never want to be dependent on one person to feed your kids. And that's what management mode does. If you're in management mode and you're not building, and you've got one builder buying 75% of your volume, and God forbid they get hit by a bus, they find something, I mean, who knows what happens? You're out of business. And
oh my God.
That's what management mode does.
Yes.
They like
and
put
if
you on
you're
the tipping point.
100%. And if you are, new to this industry or just a couple of years in, I'm telling you, this will happen. People will leave for other companies. People will leave for whatever reasons. And you don't want, I can remember being sick to my stomach a couple of times when people left. Now I'm like, okay, good for you. You go do what you think you need to do, right? What they do does not affect me. But I will say, one of the biggest things for me in that is knowing that I'm constantly helping new people and allowing my leaders to step into leadership. So I don't need to talk to my top leaders every single week. They're working their team, right? They're working their new customers. I don't need to be all over them. And we have people on our team who have stayed at Auto Bonus for 7 years. They have no interest in growing anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, my CEO said when I first met him, it was maybe 3 weeks into my business, he happened to come to South Florida, and I obviously was picking his brain like crazy. And he said, Blair, the people that will get you to 200K, which is the top of the compensation plan for our company, are not the people that will keep you there. Well, I have to say, my people, I would say 60% are still with me. And I really believe it's because of the way that we've created our team. I don't judge them. I love them where they are. One of my best friends is one of my millionaires on my team, and she still works her business every single day, just like I do. But then I have people who hit Auto Bonus and they don't do anything. They just maintain their customers and they're happy and they love being there. And so I treat them the same as I do my millionaire. That's the difference. You got to treat people the way you want to be treated and be kind to everybody in your team and bring value to everybody in your team, even if they're only bringing in $5,000 worth of volume or $500,000 worth of volume.
If people only heard that last minute, this whole broadcast was worth it. That tip right there to love everybody where they are is so important. And it's so easy to forget when things get hard, when checks go down, when, we're locked away, all the other craziness. It's so easy to forget that until it affects your paycheck. And all of a sudden you go, when did I stop loving everybody?
Listen, and I did it in the jewelry business. Like I can remember trying to pull people along because I needed them to hit XYZ in order for me to hit XYZ. Yep. And I remember feeling so yucky about it. And so I promised myself I would never do that again when I, joined the new company. That was one nice thing about switching. And I hope I never have to switch again because I love where I'm at. Yeah. But there were some really positive things out of it. And that was taking a moment to really reflect. I actually took a full day to reflect on what I loved and what I hated about my business, what I loved and what I hated about my own leadership style, and what I loved and what I hated about the sales. And I was able to really, and I still mess up sometimes. I'm sure there's people on my team that are like, oh, I wish Blair hadn't said that or pushed me in that. But, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I can say I'm a completely different leader than I was in the jewelry business. Yeah.
If you weren't still growing, you would not be where you are. You and I both know that. We learn every single day. Hey, I wanted to ask you, how are you guys doing internationally? There's been, some folks are having a really hard time internationally. Some people are taking off like crazy. How's international growth been for you?
So not really big, to be honest with you.
No, that's what I'm asking.
I think that there's two reasons. One is I'm not really great at it because I don't really know, like I have a couple girls from Australia on my team. That works out really well because it's morning for them when we do our nighttime Zooms. Right. I did have people a couple of years ago from the UK and we could not figure out times. And I think that was the demise of why they kind of stopped the business. Yep. But also the second part is our company really hasn't gotten into that many places yet. They're still kind of a baby. They're only 10 years old. So like they did just open in the Philippines and a couple Asian places, but like I don't even know anybody over there. So our team is more USA and Canada for right now. Love it. But that's in my 10-year plan. I can't wait to see what happens, right? It just takes one person on your team knowing somebody in that market. And that's it. I mean, if you've had this level of success in domestic growth, I mean, what the heck is going to happen once you meet a couple people overseas? You never know. It's like that's the beautiful part about this industry. You never know. Right. So if you're in the Philippines, reach out to me. I love it. So, hey, do me a favor. I know some folks are going to be, listening to this. It's funny. We joked around earlier about some people only like to listen to books. Some people like to read books. I know some folks are just going to be listening to this. Do me a favor. What is the best way to personally contact you? Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Blair Critch 2, like the number 2, the numeral. And then on Facebook, you can find me. It's actually, if you put facebook.com/sparklyblair, or you can literally just, I have, there's all kinds of ways, but probably the best is email. If you really want to just reach out to me and, have a conversation, you're not on Instagram or Facebook, just go to blaircritch@gmail.com and you'll be able to find my name in this, but it's, that's probably the best way. I have a website and I used to do a blog on there, but honestly, I really haven't been doing much lately. And if you're a woman and you would love to listen to some other women who are building businesses to 6 figures and beyond without sacrificing time with their family, I have a podcast called Blessed Mama Bosses. You can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts too. Thank you for mentioning the podcast. I meant to, and I forgot. So I appreciate you remembering. Yeah. And I can't wait. I'm going to have your wife on. I love interviewing other people. Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. So, hey, this is one of my favorite questions. So I'm going to break it out now. What is your 6-month goal? Ooh, so good. My 6-month goal is to help 6 new people to hit auto bonus. Ooh, good goal. Yep. 1 a month. That's my goal right now. Because after having cancer, I will say I have pulled back a little bit on my own personal business. Yeah. One of the things, like just my energy level and what I allow myself, my days are different now, but that's because I did spend all those years really building, and I bring in a really amazing income now, but I still like to have my feet in it. So I am trying to just bring one person a month in that can, hit that spot and see how that affects their family. And that brings me joy. So that's my goal. Now I'm going to ask you an even harder one because you got little kids. And this is a hard one to answer. 6-year goal. Well, they're actually not anymore. They are 18 and 15. So my 6-year goal is very easy. In 6 years, I should have 2 kids out of college. and at least one out of college. And my husband and I will have a house on the lake in North Carolina to enjoy going back and forth. And my goal in 6 years is also, because my husband and I talk about this a lot, is to travel once a month, either in the US or internationally, to see my team. So that was something I've obviously stopped because of, COVID and all that stuff. Then second, I got cancer. So I had to really not travel for a year. So I'm excited to get back to that. I love seeing people and visiting teams. And so, and being able to write it off, going see new places and write it off because it's part of my job is how amazing is that?
It's amazing, isn't it? I think the four of us are going to be fast friends because that's exactly the goal for Conchetta and I, is to get out of Florida July and August and spend it on a lake in North Carolina. I swear we've been talking about that for years. That we
have you guys ever been anywhere?
We usually go to Lake Norman or Lake Lanier. We usually spend at least a month or so on a lake, but we keep threatening. Okay, we're going to buy that house. We're going to buy that. We've waited and waited and waited. Of course, now the economy doesn't want us to buy a house, but pretty soon, certainly within that 6-year gap, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll have to figure out the right lake.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. It's funny because we actually just invested. Those of you listening, hopefully you have read the book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Cash Flow Quadrant and all that stuff, right? So we actually have been saving for our lake house. And like you said, things are just crazy right now. Yeah. So we actually invested in a rental property here in Fort Lauderdale instead. Oh, and we're already it is literally rented out every single week. And so our goal now is to wait to see where they are in 4 years, both of our boys, because neither one wants to be in Florida, and then be able to buy a lake house based on that. So I love that. And I also want my team to be able to use it, right? Bingo. I told them, I'll charge you half of what I would charge somewhere else, and you use the retreat house. Yeah. So yeah.
And that's what Conchetta and I've always joked about. It's what better retreat can you have than either Sarasota, Florida, our hometown, or our lake house? That's, if you're on the East Coast, that's sort of your dream vacation for retreats. And what better way to bring the team, all together than something like that?
Totally agree. Yeah.
Love it. So, hey, Blair, thanks for being on today. I really appreciate it. So folks, make sure you reach out to Blair Critch. She gave you her contact information. If you have any questions at all, reach out to her. But Blair, again, thanks so much. This has been super fun. I've really enjoyed having you on.
Oh, thanks so much. It was so nice getting to know you. Bye, you guys. Have a great day.
Hey there, I hope you really enjoyed the show. And now I have a question to ask. Do you want to know how to build a 7-figure network with just 3 to 5 enrollments a month? That's just 3 to 5 conversations, not 30 to 50. That means we only have to convince 3 to 5 people to say yes to build a real 7-figure network. Scan the code or click the link at the bottom of this page now to discover the step-by-step method for exactly how you can add hundreds, if not thousands of customers to your downline by recruiting and enrolling businesses and health professionals onto your team that have hundreds of built-in customers that need your product or opportunity. Get the 7-figure network book now, and let's start building massive volume with an enormous downline of businesses, health professionals, and customers.